All right, for more on the shutdown, let's get to Senator Marco Rubio. Senator, we haven't seen you in a while. It's good to have you with us today. How is the wall, and by this I mean the Republican resistance wall in the Senate, holding up right now? We've had a graphic not too long ago, and I think we're up to 5 or so saying that maybe we should do some of these individual funding initiatives that the Dems are proposing. How do you think? But then I saw Lindsey Graham's comments, the real Spartacus, in my view. But suddenly there are some cracks appearing. Would you say, or not?
Well, there's always a lot of different opinions in the Senate, and I would say writ large, most people don't want there to be a shutdown. We voted to prevent one early the day before the House voted it back in December. But that said, I think it comes down to a fundamental problem we have here, and that is, on the one hand, this is important. People who voted for the president voted for him to do this. And if you ask the Democrats, they would say, well, the people that elected them to stop him from doing this. So what you're seeing play out at the national level is sort of what some of the division that's happening in our broader debate. I think if we focus on the issue, number one, shutdowns aren't good for anyone. No, I've never seen anyone win a shutdown. And real people are hurt. If somebody, people don't get a paycheck on Friday, they miss a mortgage payment, it ruins their credit. They may get their back pay, but that credit rating will take time to repair, and that's unfair to these workers who haven't done anything wrong. The flip side of it is, I don't understand this irrational resistance to border security, and if I would change one thing about what the president did last night, is I would have laid out to the American people that the $5 billion that he wants are not for a wall alone. It's $5 billion to fund the top 10 projects in the border security program laid out by the experts and the people who are in charge of doing that for this country. That's what the $5 billion is for. Part of it is new walls, part of it is repairing existing walls, but there are other things included in that $5 billion. It isn't just throwing $5 billion to build a wall. It is $5 billion to fund a specific set of projects that come to put together a program for border security designed by the people who are entrusted with enforcing our laws.
Hey, Senator, is there anything that you believe is on the, and I'm not just going to say Democratic wish list, because I think it's got to be the Schumer-Pelosi wish list, that they would say, okay, a bargaining chip or a DACA or Dreamers, or is there anything? I don't even think that would do it.
No, it wouldn't.
At this point.
It wouldn't. It wouldn't, because
they're going to insist that the government gets reopened before they do anything, because they think it's a winning political hand.
Yeah, this is all politics at this point. For them, if they can get the president to back down and cave, they believe it'll be a devastating blow to him among his base and improve their chances of winning in 2020.
Maybe if he said, I'll resign if you give me the $5 billion.
Well, that might be tempting, but that's not going to happen for them, But look, if you look back a couple of years ago when we had the DACA debate, the president offered not just to give DACA recipients a path to citizenship, but he would have opened it up to people who didn't apply for DACA but would have been eligible. All he needed was funding for the wall, and they didn't agree to that either. So this is one of those issues that's kind of entrenched, and frankly, it's troubling, because if you stand around here and ask anyone, no one really knows how this ends. There's not like a clear way out.
So that's the question, though, Senator. If to the extent that you're going to play a role in all of this, what do you think could be the inflection point?
Well, look, I don't know the 5, maybe we fund the top 8 projects or the top 9 projects or 7 projects. The point is we've got to get to work on that border security plan, because I'm going to tell you, it is a magnet. It does. The fact that these poor people in Guatemala and in Honduras, these trafficking networks go to them, and they convince them that, hey, come with us, we'll get you across the border. People are crossing every day. It serves as a magnet to bring people here, and then they undertake this dangerous journey. President's right, women are sexually assaulted, children are used in many cases as a ticket into the country. Horrible things. You are now in the hands of some of the worst human beings on the planet, these traffickers. They're the ones that are winning here. And so if we can put things in place that make it clear that it's harder to cross than it used to be and discourage some of those journeys, that's best for everyone involved, including Mexico, by the way. And I hope that reasonable minds can prevail on that point.
Do you think this changes after Friday when the paychecks don't go out?
I don't know. I hope we can do something before that point, at least to avoid that from happening. But again, we really need to do 2 things around here. Avoid the sort of showdowns on a constant basis, because they're not good for anyone, and they really hurt people that have nothing to do with this. And the flip side of it is, I don't understand this irrational, well, I do understand this irrational objection to border security. It's a political ploy.
But can I just ask you, Senator, those are 2 issues that you may not be able to have your way on both those issues. Which one takes precedent? Are you with the president to the bitter end on this? Or do you try and see if there's a compromise to work your way out of it, even if you don't understand the resistance to his calls?
Yeah, I mean, my job is to make things better, not to make things perfect. So anything that makes the border more secure, I'll be in favor of supporting. Now, it has to be real, it has to be reasonable, but anything that helps improve security on the border in a real and measurable way, I'm open to that. This republic was designed for that. The bottom line is, in this republic, you have to reach agreement with people that you strongly disagree with.
But are you willing to put 800,000 federal workers on the line for potentially multiple weeks and under the hardship issues that you talked about, whether it's their own personal credit rating and their ability to pay their mortgages and everything else?
No, I don't want to see that happen.
To get there.
I don't want to see that happen.
That's the fundamental question of the situation that we have now.
But it's more complicated than that. Understand that if the Senate took up a bill today to pass for funding and the House did the same and the president vetoes it, it doesn't become law unless you have veto-proof majorities in both chambers. So the truth is that instead of sort of spending time on theater, bringing bills up, voting on them just to create political theater, we really should be spending all our time and energy trying to convince all three sides, the Senate Democrats, the House, and the president, to come to an agreement that will pass and become law. We really don't have any time to spare at this point, given what you just pointed out.
Senator, do you think the president has constitutional authority to build a wall for national security purposes under an emergency, what would be considered a national emergency?
I think the president has broad powers to declare national emergencies. I think they should be used very judiciously. I'm not prepared to endorse that right now. I want to think about it some more. I want to dig into some of the historical record as to why that power is there, how it's been used in the past. I think we need to be very careful about that. Is my view. It sets long-term precedents, and I can tell you that for people on my side of the aisle, one of our concerns we should have is if today the national emergency is border security and it entitles them to go out and do something, we all support that. Tomorrow, the national security emergency might be, climate change. So let's seize fossil fuel plants or something. I mean, maybe it's an exaggeration, but my point is we got to be very careful about endorsing broad uses of executive power in our republic. That said, I want to learn a little bit more about how it's been used in the past.
Senator, government shutdowns, the debt ceiling have been used now as negotiating leverage over the past couple of years in this back and forth. Just this morning, Fitch came out and said that it would potentially lower the credit rating of the United States over the debt ceiling. Is that something that worries you?
Yeah. I don't think it's a good idea in real life to go around threatening to harm yourself if someone doesn't give you what you want. I don't think it's good in terms of our government either. This is ultimately, these things come and go, and then we harm ourselves.
If you believe that, then why not separate these issues completely?
Well, we have. I mean, so to be clear, the Senate on whatever Wednesday that was 3 weeks ago voted unanimously for a bill that funded government through February. And then on Thursday morning, the White House had a change of view, and then they said they wouldn't sign it. But the day before, they said they were open-minded to it. Now, we can't go back. It happened, and that's the case. And I think if there was indications that they would be willing to sign that now, that would pass again. But ultimately, the position we're in now is the Senate Democrats need to reach an agreement between themselves, Speaker Pelosi, and the president. Because the only way that we get out of this is something that all three of them can agree on. So I think Senate Republicans are prepared to support anything the president will sign.
You've seen, Senator, where sometimes Washington is dragged kicking and screaming into something because you see the public, suddenly the public's at like 60%. Pick your issue, where the public seems to decide first. And then, the politicians catch up with them. In this case, do you see the polling for a wall or for border security changing at all? Because it's not about the wall. It's about different things. I mean, the 40% solid Trump as an illegitimate president is going to stay rock solid at 40% until 2020. And so I don't see any way that public opinion changes here. So who's going to move? Who's going to move? I mean, because I would think, in my view, and I may think about it differently, all these guys voted for a lot more than $5 billion, and everybody agrees that border, you can't have open borders. Especially when you're suddenly given free health care in California and New York City. It's like we can't provide health care to the entire world and give inducements for everybody to come here. We'll never secure it. So, but I don't see that poll moving just out of pure Trump hate.
Yeah, and I think the bigger problem there to understand, though, is that may be the national polling numbers, but there are states and congressional districts in this country where the numbers are 80% in favor of a wall or 70% against it. So I think that's part of the difference here is we have real diversity of opinion, very strong differences between different regions and areas of the country.
Okay, Senator, we're going to get the other side from Senator Rob. Actually, maybe not. We would like a Democrat. I don't know why we don't have a Democrat today.
I'll find you one. I'll walk around here and see if I can pull one in.
There's a lot of them there.
Just one question really quickly, Senator, before you go. We heard reports earlier this morning that named 5 different Republicans in the Senate who said that they would like to see a vote. Would your name be added to that list at some point?
Potentially, but I'm not there right now. It's yet, and because I'd like to see the White House have a chance. The president was elected, and he was elected on this promise, and I think he has a right to try to keep it. He has a right to go to Congress and say, look, I was elected. I'm not asking for $15 billion. I'm not asking for a wall for 2,000 miles. I am asking for improvements. I think his request is quite reasonable. I really do. And if you compare what he's asking for what he kind of the image or the ideas people got from him during the campaign, this is very, very reasonable. It's not an irrational or unreasonable request. And if his name was anything other than Trump, I think he would have gotten it. So the point being that I think he deserves a chance to try to get that done. And we undermine that if we go around telling him, and from his own party, that he should abandon it. When what he's asking for is a legitimate request.
Yeah. I don't know. If his name's Cheney, I don't know.
Oh, well, maybe Cheney, too, yeah.
Bush 43, I don't. Although there's.
Now he's doing all right.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Yeah, the longer you're out of office, the better your numbers get.
I love that guy. He's a very compassionate man. Nice man. Nice man. Anyway.
He's relative.
God almighty. Anyway, thank you, Senator Rubio. Good to be with you today.
Thank you.